there was always going to be a garden.
Yeah.
But then I just switched to what kind of garden I'm going to have because it made sense in terms of orientation and, you know, then I built it out that way. But I was always going to have a garden. I should probably share pictures of how it looked like first and what it looks like now, because it was kind of desert. Just like, it was, you know, it looks very different.
Almost empty, sterile backyard in some cases.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a syntropic demonstration site. Well, let me say it's a regenerative demonstration site because we have more than one strategy that we're employing. And everything we do, we kind of have to live with nature, so we have to give back.
So here we are in your syntropic plantings.
Yes.
Do you kind of want to give us a brief kind of walkthrough as to what we're seeing? Because at the moment it's kind of chock-a-block.
Yeah. Okay, so for those who may not understand, syntropics is basically the rule of five, right? So you have your tree line is the first line, your grass line, vegetable, grass line, tree line.
Okay.
The grass lines, essentially you want to be able to grow your mulch in place, right? That's why you have your grass lines, things like Mombasa grass and stuff like that, that you then chop, like you see chopped over there, chop and drop, right? So in your tree line, so after every line there's a little space for walking.
Okay.
Right, but we have lemongrass in the grass line, just because having, you know, worked with the system, it's easier for me. I find that if I can go and get wood chips, they last a lot longer, right? And they just working, customizing it to a system that works for me. Yeah. So in our tree lines, the tree lines are densely planted, right? So if you look at our tree, there are some trees right off the bat that are not in the tree lines just because the garden was started before, like my apples. Some of the apples and, you know, some of the pomegranates and stuff. Some of the bananas too are not in the tree line. And some of them I put deliberately because it floods in those areas and it has so much water, so I just put in something that will take advantage of all that water. And besides, bananas are not permanent, they don't last that long, they can be part of the system, I can chop them down and then mulch with them. So in the tree lines we have things like poplars, mulberries, apples obviously, peaches, you know, and I have a lot of, well, not that many, but eucalyptus. Right? A lot of people say eucalyptus, you know, drinks a lot of water. I have a lot of water. But
work to your advantage.
Work to my advantage. But then also we're going to coppice them at some point, but they have so much biomass. Yeah. You know, in their prime they have so much biomass. I don't really need the grass lines at some point, right? Okay. So it's really trying to make it work as best you can in whatever system that you're working with, because it's not going to be perfect. Yeah. Right? And if you're struggling for perfection, you probably won't get it done. Yeah, you won't even get past the planting stage, isn't it? Yeah, and then even the other thing that's growing really well, if you've noticed, is the cassava. The cassava is doing very, very well, yeah. Cassava does, but this is our nursery. So for the farm, we just chop, because we know we like this cassava. It's like really good. It's nice and sweet. It's not, you know, it's not bitter. So we just chop this down and use it as propagation material for the material for the farm. Okay. And the thing with syntropics is it can be daunting. It can be very costly to densely plant hectares, or even this. It's a lot to kind of densely plant all of this. So basically, what we're trying to do now, as these grow up, then we'll start at 2 years. I'll coppice the poplars. Because otherwise their root system becomes too big and it becomes a problem. But then all this becomes mulch. Yeah. So the idea is we don't want to have any bare spots. Like I don't want to see all that stuff. Yeah. We want to make sure that that's always covered. Yeah. Because we're trying to recreate the forest floor. Once you create the forest, so then you're building your soil. But when people say build soil, people think it's going to go up. Yeah. It really builds from up down, right? It's that organic matter content of it, not necessarily actually making more in the end, isn't it? Yeah, so, and then it's all with time and with composting and mulching and, you know, just making sure that the ground is covered, because when you don't cover your soils, we have such intense heat that you're just baking all the enzymes or nutrients, whatever it was, the living matter is baked out of it. Yeah. And because it's clay soil, then it's just a rock and you can't deal with it. And it cracks and it will repel water more than absorb water. Exactly. So now, even when we did have extreme water, usually it would flood that you can't walk back. Yeah. But now I've noticed that it may flood, but it's still sinking in faster than it would before. Yes. So with time, it's just going to be one big beautiful sponge, and you know. Yeah.
One day you won't even see any little patches of water. It'll all just disappear right away.
Just disappear. And then also then it will be a different profile because now the trees are at the eye length profile, right? Yeah. When these grow up, then there'll be more space in between. So it just really be changing the whole little microclimate.
Yes.
And then also, if you can see, it also, if you see the wind, it gives you a really good idea of the wind direction, right? Yeah. We know the wind comes from there, it goes there because all the trees are facing this way, right? Yeah. So it kind of helps in the planning. My chickens are less affected by the wind because it's not hitting them, right? Yeah. All that dust is being captured. So it's like trees are king. And then there's all that food that we always have an excess of food. Like when we have apples, we have enough apples, more than enough for us. The extra we sell, and then the offs we make vinegar, or we dry the apples. But there's always the value add that we can add within our small space, kind of, helping ourselves, having agency with what we have. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So for me, it's better than a rental because once it's in full, it's every month I'm getting something. Yeah. Rental,
and you can plan, this is the time of year that such and such a product happens, and then start planning, okay, I have a deficit at this time of year. What can I be incorporating into the system that I can get from that?
Absolutely. Like that. And then we make it very deliberate to plant your wood. Because not only do you use it for mulching, but at some point when I cut the poplars, those are wood that I can use back in the farm, right? The stems.
Yeah, the poles.
The poles, but it's still going to sprout up. So,
Yeah. Is there, so what you've planted at the moment are more along the lines of pioneer kind of species, the poplar, the eucalyptus, they'd come in earlier.
Yeah.
Are you planning for succession going beyond that, where we'd look at something that would then be maybe much longer term?
Yeah.
Either timber, either fruits or nut trees or things like that. You mentioned cashew earlier, that it died. Is that still on the books?
Yeah, it's definitely on the books, but I think it probably needs, you see there's a lot of lemons. They have lemons, they have fruits, and my oranges are, but I think the system has to progress a little more before. I have macadamias in here that are not doing too well, but macadamias take 6 years. But then also I think it's an issue with the doggone ants, So it's like, but then we have ash that we've made over there that we're gonna, and then also being organic, you're limited as what you can do to remedy the situation. Yes. It's either the chickens, it's ash, but Yeah.
There's always something in the grand scheme, isn't there?
Yeah, so I think that, and then also it's a learning curve because not everything that we've planted is actually survived.
Yeah.
Right? So it's telling me either we planted it too early or it doesn't do well in this environment. Yeah. But the one thing I noticed that struggles is moringa.
Really?
Yeah, it seems to struggle when we added more people. When it was the only one, she was doing fine. They were doing fine.
Oh, so it's not adapted to competition very well, is it?
Like that, I'm out. Because even at the farm, it's the same thing.
Really?
They're not doing as well. So maybe they're more end kind of thing when the system is already fully developed. But so we're kind of learning as we go, but we definitely always are going to have our pomegranates. We do have pomegranates, right? But not as many because the plants are still small. We have our dragon fruit. We got a dragon fruit the other day.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I see you also have it on the eucalyptus here.
Yeah, because it grows. I've seen dragon fruit grow like way high, so it can grow the height of a eucalyptus tree. So, but we use it as a nursery because it's clay soil. Cacti, they don't really.
They're not going to be quite as happy as they.
Yeah. So at the farm, it's sandy soil. Yeah. But it's a good place to kind of get the cuttings always, and I'm always cutting and taking that to the farm. So yeah.
What do you see in terms of this space in 5-10 years? Because I see you've already got certain things that are producing for you. You mentioned the columbula, the sweet potato leaves, that you can eat right away.
The apples we can eat right away.
The apples you can eat that are now bearing. Things like the citrus will take time. You've got the hibiscus that you're then also able to get the calyces and use that.
Lemongrass that we make tea out of, organic tea.
So there's more in terms of kind of add-on things that would be able to make some economic returns, but not so much on the vegetable side at the moment.
No, that's why we're doing the vertical raised garden, because the vegetables, and notice when we plant in here, the results are kind of like not doing so great. So, and then also, for me personally, I'd rather have them in a vertical raised garden because it's a concentrated place where I can focus on them.
Yeah.
In the food forest, you have to go hunting for the vegetable to remember where it is. To it's kind of everything is all mixed because it's more forest, which is why
So kind of what I feel like what I'm hearing is that the annual vegetable crops you put into a space on their own because of the ease of then managing it and being able to cater to their needs that are more difficult here. Whereas here is more of a perennial system that you're then able to plant in perennial things that you can get out of the asparagus. I see that we walked by some ginger and then fruits and things like that.
And then turmeric and things like that take long, because even like the eggplant or the chili that I have here, 9 out of 10 I forget it's there. Right? So I guess that's why in permaculture there's zone 1 where some things that you see every day. The further it is away from you, you don't see it as much, you're likely to forget about it.
And less input needed in that further away system versus right up close.
So it really needs to be up close and personal where I can just go in and pick it. Because even if I know it's there, if it's dark and I want a lettuce, I'm not coming all the way here. I mean, it's not that far, but I'm not coming all the way here 9 out of 10, right? But if it's in the vertical garden, I'm just walking over, plucking a lettuce and keep it moving,
Yeah. And you mentioned about low kind of, like automation of a sort, but kind of keeping that on the low-tech end. How are you maintaining watering and things like that in this space?
So we have drip irrigation.
Okay.
Right, so drip, I can do that. I just open the drippers this way, turn it, go do something else, turn them off. So really it cuts down except for stuff that is not in the lines. Because we have to come in and water them, make sure that they're getting enough water. But we have sufficient amount of water that
sounds like it. If you're clay soil, probably should actually hold on to quite. So even with the watering system that you have in here, do you have to water very often or no?
Now not so much because the trees are growing a little more. Right, but before, but now because even here you can see that it's not completely dry, right? Even though I'm not in a drip line, but you can see that. There's moisture.
And your ease of actually being able to disturb the soil.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
If this was exposed in clay, you wouldn't even be able to scrape off a little bit of a section of it.
So it's definitely changed because now there's a significant amount of matter that has gone over here. So it's broken down, so there's definitely, but it just gets eaten so fast when it's just.
Well, termites love clay. They're very, very, and you're probably a bit of a haven for them comparatively to your neighbors.
And that's even at the farm, we planted, but it's like we're sharing with the birds because there's no food everywhere. It's kind of like, okay. But even like the amount of, like in the mornings, the amount of biodiversity, the birds, it's a beauty to be around with all the birds that are coming in. You wouldn't think that it's an urban setting, because there's all birds, there's butterflies, there's bees, you name it, we got it. And the weather, we are where we are because of our actions. It's not an accident that we have extreme weather and all that stuff. We are part of it, so we have to be part of the solution, and it's not out there, it's with everybody, so it's kind of,